I keep thinking about the upcoming General Hospital episode on Monday, March 9, and honestly the whole thing feels messy in that classic soap way. Not neat, not logical sometimes, but strangely gripping. Like several story threads are being pulled at once and nobody in Port Charles seems aware how tangled they're becoming. Maybe that's why these spoilers feel interesting to me. They don't line up smoothly. They bump into each other. First, there's Liesel Obrecht and whatever new scheme she's preparing. Liesel is the type of person who never sits quietly when something irritates her. And right now, something absolutely does irritate her. Her son, Nathan West, being romantically involved with Lulu Spencer. She hates that idea. Not mildly dislikes it. Hates it. And honestly, that reaction fits her character completely. Liesel has always been extremely protective of Nathan. Maybe too protective. Sometimes it feels like she believes she should decide every woman who gets close to him. And Lulu, well, Lulu has always been chaotic, loud personality, complicated past, and someone who attracts trouble like a magnet. From Liesel's perspective, that is probably a disaster waiting to happen. What makes this even more interesting is that Liesel already knows that Maxie Jones has feelings for Damian Spinelli now. So technically Nathan is not competing with Spinelli anymore. That chapter is closed. If Nathan cannot reunite with Maxie, then fine. Liesel probably thinks he should move forward with someone else. Just not Lulu. Anyone but Lulu? Honestly, that seems to be Liesel's rule. So the spoiler suggests that she launches a new plan. That sounds believable. Liesel is not the type to simply complain and walk away. She plots quietly sometimes dramatically. I imagine her sitting somewhere in the hospital or maybe her apartment, thinking, calculating, deciding what kind of situation could push Lulu out of Nathan's life. And she would do it calmly too. That's the scary part. Now, shifting over to Maxie for a moment, because her storyline might become even more complicated. The rumors floating around suggest that Maxie could discover some kind of hidden truth connected to Nathan. Something from the past. Something that happened during the time when everyone believed Nathan was dead. And that period of time is still suspicious when you think about it. Soap operas rarely leave those gaps empty. If a character disappears or is presumed dead, something almost always happens behind the scenes. Relationships begin, secrets form, mistakes happen. It is practically tradition. So there is speculation that during that time, Nathan might have abandoned a woman, or maybe the story is darker than that. Maybe he didn't abandon her willingly. Maybe circumstances forced him to vanish. Hard to say. The name being whispered around is Delilah. A mysterious woman, new to the canvas, barely known by anyone in town, and possibly Nathan's secret girlfriend at some point. Maybe even more than a girlfriend. There are even theories, slightly wild but still possible in soap logic, that Nathan could have a child with her. Imagine that shock. Imagine Maxie learning that the man she loved, the man everyone mourned when he was gone, might have left behind an entire hidden life somewhere. But the real tragedy here is that Delilah may never reveal anything. Because according to predictions, she dies before the truth can come out. Which feels very typical for Port Charles storytelling. The person with answers disappears before speaking. Delilah being connected to a medical crisis also ties into another storyline later. But before going there, another scene caught my attention. A conversation between Jocelyn Jax and Jason Morgan. This moment might be tense. Jocelyn has always been fiercely protective of her mother, Carly Spencer, sometimes protective in a way that borders on reckless. If she believes Carly is in danger, she reacts quickly, sometimes without thinking about consequences. And right now, Carly is harboring a fugitive, that fugitive being Valentine Cassadine. Jocelyn clearly cannot accept that situation. In her mind, the problem is simple. Valentine is a criminal on the run. Her mother allowing him inside the house is unacceptable, dangerous, completely irresponsible. So Jocelyn apparently tells Jason something very direct. If Valentine does not leave Carly's house by the deadline she sets, she will call the police. No hesitation. I actually find that believable for Jocelyn. She tends to think in black and white. Good people should not protect criminals. End of discussion. But things in Port Charles are rarely that simple. Jason understands that better than almost anyone. He knows that Carly sometimes makes alliances for complicated reasons. Maybe there is a deal with Valentine. Maybe they are working together temporarily. Jocelyn does not care about those explanations. She just wants Valentine gone. Jason's role here might be to calm her down. Not by lying exactly, but by reassuring her that the situation is under control. Jason has that quiet way of speaking that convinces people to step back for a moment. He might remind Jocelyn that calling the police could make everything worse. Whether she listens, that's another question. Returning again to Maxie's storyline because something darker might be brewing there. If Maxie starts digging into Nathan's past, she could uncover a very dangerous truth. There are whispers that the man walking around as Nathan might not actually be the real Nathan. That idea sounds crazy at first. But again, this is a soap opera. Identity swaps, imposters, twins, secret surgeries. It happens more often than viewers like to admit. If someone is impersonating Nathan, then Maxie is walking directly into danger by investigating. Imagine the situation. Maxie discovers evidence that something is wrong. Maybe a document that doesn't match. Maybe a memory Nathan cannot explain. Maybe someone recognizes him differently. Small things. Tiny cracks. If the fake Nathan realizes she is getting close to the truth, he might do anything to protect his secret. Anything. Maxie could suddenly become a target without even realizing it. And that possibility makes this storyline genuinely tense. Because Maxie is brave, but also impulsive. She might confront him directly instead of staying quiet. And confronting the wrong person in Port Charles rarely ends well. Now shifting toward Willow Tate. Her story might take one of the strangest turns. There are suggestions that Willow will leave town soon, publicly at least. The explanation being that she is preparing to take over a political role after Drew Kane steps aside. Becoming a new congresswoman is not a small thing. It would require travel, preparation, public appearances. So everyone might believe Willow has officially departed, but here is where the speculation becomes unsettling. What if she secretly returns to Port Charles without telling anyone? Not for a friendly visit, for something far more dangerous. There are theories floating around that Willow could come back specifically to eliminate someone. And if that sounds extreme, well, soap plots have crossed that line many times before. The potential targets being Drew or Michael Corinthos. Between those two, Michael seems like the more likely victim. Their history is complicated, emotions tangled, betrayals and resentment lingering under the surface. I can imagine a scenario where Willow sneaks back into town quietly. Nobody expects her. Everyone believes she is somewhere else preparing for her new political career. Then one night, Michael is alone, maybe at home, maybe at the office, and Willow appears unexpectedly. A confrontation, words exchanged, maybe accusations, maybe anger that has been building for months finally erupts. Then suddenly an attack, something quick, something brutal. Willow disappears again immediately afterward, leaving Michael injured or worse, and leaving no clear suspect because officially she was never even in town. If that theory becomes reality, it would completely change how viewers see Willow. It would mean she planned everything carefully, alibi, timing, escape, cold calculation. And honestly, the thought of Willow evolving into that kind of character is both disturbing and fascinating. Finally, we reach the hospital storyline involving Britt Westbourne. Britt faces a professional nightmare. A patient dying during surgery due to severe blood loss. That situation alone would shake any doctor, even when the doctor is not directly responsible. From what the spoilers suggest, Britt may not actually be at fault. There might have been previous agreements or medical complications that made the outcome unavoidable. Maybe the patient arrived already in critical condition, but logic does not always comfort someone after a loss like that. Doctors often carry guilt even when they did everything correctly. And the patient who might die on that operating table could very well be Delilah, the same mysterious woman connected to Nathan's hidden past. The circumstances sound tragic. Delilah undergoing a cesarean section, complications, excessive bleeding, doctors fighting desperately to save her life while the situation slips out of control. If Delilah dies during that procedure, the truth she carried about Nathan might vanish with her. No confession, no explanation, just silence. Britt, meanwhile, would be left questioning everything she did during that surgery, even if colleagues tell her it was unavoidable, even if the medical records confirm she followed every protocol. Sometimes that does not matter. The image of a patient dying on the table can stay in a doctor's mind for years. So when looking at all these spoilers together, the episode seems heavy. Liesl scheming against Lulu, Maxie approaching a dangerous secret, Jocelyn threatening to involve the police, Willow possibly planning something violent, Britt facing the emotional fallout of a patient's death. It is chaotic storytelling, honestly. Not smooth, some parts feel almost exaggerated. But that is also what keeps people watching General Hospital after all these years. Nothing stays calm in Port Charles for long, and Monday might prove that once again.